Good evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence, silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl? Here. Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. King?
Here.
I would like to make a motion to take from the table file of the council number 46, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to take from the table file of council number 46, 2023. This piece of legislation is being taken from the table and placed in sixth order. It is the permit parking on the 1500 block of Pine Street. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, agenda for the zoning hearing board meeting to be held February 8th, 2023. 3B, City of Scranton demolition listing received January 24th, 2023 from the Office of Economic and Community Development. 3C, City of Scranton Act 98 fire damage property listing received January 24th, 2023 from City Treasurer's Office. 3D, correspondence received January 24th, 2023 from OECD regarding code enforcement report for City Council. 3E, minutes of the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority meeting held November 17th, 2022. 3F, correspondence received January 27th, 2023 from the Pennsylvania Route 6 Alliance regarding DCED grant for facade program in Lackawanna County. 3G, budget transfer from the Business Administration for the Scranton Fire Department. 3H, correspondence dated January 27th, 2023 from OCD ARPA Director Eileen Cipriani regarding American Rescue Plan update. 3I, correspondence dated January 29th, 2023 from OCD ARPA Director Eileen Cipriani regarding City of Scranton grant listing 2020 to 2023.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have a couple. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate the West Scranton Invader swim team for their win over Scranton Prep last week. History was made as the first time West defeated Prep at a score of 93-66. And the captain of the team was one of my culinary students, so we're very happy for them and proud of them. And about 100 pounds ago, and what feels like 100 years ago, I swam for West and realized what a big deal this really is to beat Prep. So congratulations to them. And then this Friday, there's a pasta dinner, February 3rd. It's at the Yukovets, also known as American Ukrainian Vets Association. It's located on 237 Railroad Avenue. It's dine-in or takeout. The dinner includes ziti, 2 meatballs, bread, salad. So that's a nice event to go to. And then also on West Side, the next night is the West Scranton Wrestling Alumni Night of Night at the Races. This is at St. Peter's and Paul's Orthodox Youth Center on 1725 Academy Street in Scranton, obviously West Side. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Do any other council members have any announcements?
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Joan Hodowanitz.
June Hodawanit, Scranton. A lot of people asked me when I retired why I came back to Scranton, having been stationed around the United States and Europe and other places. And of course, I had family here, and that was my immediate reason. But after my mother passed away, and my sister passed away, and my father passed away, I could easily have relocated to a warmer climate, like Hawaii. If you've ever been there, that's great. And there are other places, but one of the reasons I opted to stay here, with some of the bad images that you see about Scranton over the years, is that there's some of the best people in the world right here in Scranton and in this northeastern Pennsylvania. And believe me, you know, having been around the world more than once, a lot of nice people out there, but none finer than right here at home. So I was very pleased to see two interesting articles in the paper this weekend. The first one, Jeff Horvath wrote, and that was the recognition of former Mayor Dave Wenzel and his contributions to the Shade Commission. But, you know, if you are not familiar with Scranton, if you're a new resident, you know, Dave went to Vietnam. I think he was in country about 3 weeks before he stepped on a landmine. And so he's a triple amputee. Now, he could have come home after his medical discharge and not have to work for the rest of his life because the VA would take very good care of him. But he went on to serve as Scranton's mayor, and after that, you know, constantly advocating for the disabled, volunteering in a number of positions. You know, the man's incredible, and I'm proud to come from the same city and to have worn the same uniform. The second article was on Sunday. It was a reprint of an article from the New York Times, and it focused on Father Myron Moroniak of St. Vladimir's Ukrainian church down the road on 7th Avenue, and how not asking for government funding and taxpayer dollars, but through his own fundraising efforts and the efforts of a lot of Ukrainian churches, have raised a considerable amount of money to support the Ukrainian people in their efforts against Putin and his war. So next time you ask me why I decided to retire here, that's why. We have our occasional lawbreakers, every city does. But I don't know where you're going to find better people like Father Myron and Dave Wenzel. You just aren't. Having said that, do we have any updates on the audit?
Yesterday, Larry West let us know that the only thing that they are waiting on is the Gadsby 75 from our HR department.
Okay, Gadsby 75, okay. Yeah, inch by inch, slowly they turned. I still think that there should be a public caucus with Kohansky, Rainey and Rainey, and the BA's office to go over the findings of the audit and to explain why it was such a labored effort and how it's going to be corrected in the future. What about the police and firefighter arbitrations? Are they making any progress that we know of?
All I know is they are in arbitration.
Inch by inch,
Well,
slowly they turned.
I did speak to a fireman, and they
Okay.
seemed pretty optimistic.
Good. I will compliment IT, which I don't often do. I see they are starting to make progress in reorganizing the city's website. I hope they continue on it, and once they get it up to speed, that they can keep it maintained. And for those of you who may have forgotten, it's tax time. Should you need the instructions or a form, please visit your friendly public library. They'll help you. The IRS office will tell you to go to the internet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hodawanitz. Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. Prior to the meeting, Bob Bolus called me about Councilman Rothchild. I don't know, he just thinks you should put physical therapist after your name. I don't know how you feel about that, but I thought I'd say that since he asked me to mention it. But the next thing I have is, you know, the venue was open at ECTV for the council to appear and speak to the people in an open forum and take questions. The council chose not to do that. I don't know why. It's very troubling in a representative form of government when your representatives hide from the people they represent and can't take questions. Now, I asked the Scranton Times a long time ago to bring on an investigative reporter and start investigating instead of doing press conferences with people and taking verbatim the words they say and print them in the newspaper. And when you look at a country like America and you see what's happening to our country, and you elect people who, to be honest, I mean, there's nobody in city government other than Mr. Smurl that has all the answers, and as the council president, I mean, you know, I just can't see why the council in total would hide from the people they represent when you ran for public office and you talked about being transparent and representing the residents. But this wasn't an interview with me. This had to do with the 75-page report. This had to do with the things that took place at the park. I mean, now we have the mayor who has appointed new people to the rec board. What questions did the mayor ask? And what's the plan for Naog Park? And why is Miss or Mrs. Duffy running around the park? And, you know, why did the slide come down the way it did? And why is the pool full of dirt? And why can't the council in total, or even one of the members, sit at a table and have an open discussion on any issue? Not just that, because I'm going to ask about other ones as we go forward, but it makes you look illegitimate because you come here, you pass borrowing and spending, and you do your spiel about the spaghetti dinners and who died, and we do the Pledge of Allegiance, but when it comes to being transparent and speaking to the very people you represent in an open forum, are you afraid to take questions? If you watch the interview I did with Frank Scavo, didn't ask him one harsh question. Now, I don't know what happened to that video because obviously I have to wait for ECTV to get back to me on that. And I've done other interviews with people, and I've met and talked to people in local government almost for the last 40 years. Never disrespected one person, not once in my whole life. Just asked legitimate questions that should be answered. Not just, I've sat down with the bishop in Scranton and talked to him about issues. I'm a truck driver, just an ordinary person, but when you elect a government that hides like the mayor, sending up a memo to the council, this is the person that ran and said that as mayor I would come here at this council chamber and speak to the residents. It's not happening, but we've got tons of borrowing, we've got talk about more authorities, we've got a council that gets up, says the Pledge of Allegiance, says they represent us, but won't answer a question. And we've got the Scranton Times that won't ask a question. It's troubling. I mean, the only thing I heard today is that about my video with Frank Scavo was that Mr. Kelly had some kind of problem with it. You've got to ask yourself one question. What's happened to our country? Because nobody's really representing us. We've got a president who's borrowed $6 trillion, and the American dollar is being chased off the monetary exchanges. And we name a street after him, and an expressway exit, and a council that voted to make it happen. I mean, we've got to look at who represents us, and how are they thinking? Are they thinking? He's got classified documents spread all over the country. He took millions and millions and millions of dollars from the Chinese to build the Penn Biden Center. This is the President of the United States. This is the people that this council named a street after, who has no respect for us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Norma Jeffries?
Good evening, Norma Jeffries, Scranton resident, and I'm not here to talk about my street signs tonight because I keep waiting, hoping that I'll see an advancement in the city, and I haven't seen that yet. But last week when Marie was talking, and she said something like that she wanted to know how many pedestrian citations were given. Well, I didn't realize that anything was ever pedestrian ever received a citation. So that perked my interest as to the walkability of Scranton and the money that we've paid for our study, for the walkability study in Scranton. And one of the things, I went back to my folder and pulled out some papers on it. So I'd just like to read this little section here. It says that it was developed for the street design, parking policy, property redevelopment, and multimodal transport in the downtown Scranton. It will examine how these ingredients make downtown more vital and more connected to surrounding neighborhoods. This plan will be making specific recommendations regarding the revision to two-way traffic of Scranton's one-way street network, as well as addition of protected bicycling facilities downtown. So I was reading that, and I read this whole thing of what was passed out to us at least a year and a half ago on the walkability study. And then I thought, well, where is that? We've spent a lot of money on this design, and I know they had a meeting, the last meeting that I knew of was over at Lackawanna College. And looks like it just sort of died. And I think that I see that a lot in Scranton. You know, things are talked about, they're mentioned, and then all of a sudden you don't hear anything else about it. We spend money on it, which we did with this study, and we don't see anything. I was at the corner of Lackawanna and Wyoming, waiting for my turn to advance, and I thought about the pedestrians that are killed there at that intersection. And I could see why. I think it's a wide intersection, and if you're not very mobile on your feet to get across that street, you know, I could see how someone could be killed and hurt there. So I thought about that as I'm sitting at the light, and I thought, at what time is the city going to do something about that intersection? I'm not sure if that comes under public safety. It seems like it would, because as you're coming out from Boscov's and you're walking across the street to catch the bus there, you've got to really hustle and bustle to get across that street, which should not be. There should be something that should be able to be done with those traffic lights to assist the residents that are walking and coming out of Boscov's, or either coming to go across the street on Lackawanna Avenue. And so I thought about the university at Linden and Jefferson. They stop all traffic for those students as they come out of the building there. Something like that should be able to be done for downtown Scranton, where it's a hazard as people come with the traffic turning and the people walking in the street. So I'm not sure if it's on anyone's table or anyone's timeline to do something about Lackawanna and Wyoming Avenue, and it's one street over at Penn is just as bad. And I said, well, that's why I went back to the paperwork to see if there was anything in our walkability study that was going to address the safety of the residents walking in downtown Scranton. They talked about bicycles, and they talk about the parking, but I didn't see anything in there to help and assist the residents as they walk in downtown, specifically Lackawanna Avenue at Wyoming and Penn. And I hope it doesn't take another person to lose their life at that corner before something is done at that corner. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jeffries. Ron Ellman.
Yes, good evening, Council. If there's one thing I know, my immediate neighborhood. I've walked around there for over 25 years with 4 different dogs. There's no policeman knows it like I do, no postman, nobody from the city. I know those people. I've talked to them, and I listen to stories. You can't imagine some of the things they tell me, and it's just seconds standing there about neighbors and the city and the government. Like I said, when I tell you 57 Parker Street is a bunch of undesirables living in that house that have destroyed the tranquility of that whole neighborhood, you can take it to the bank. Now, let's just forget Parker Street. I won't bring it up again. I want to talk about the one block I live on, the 2600 block North Main. Not the block before it or after it, the block I live on. There's 16 properties. Of course, next door to me is this nasty slumlord, and he rents to people as low-life as he is. They park down the lawn. They have destroyed my house values and the house values of the whole neighborhood. It's a big muddy hole. They got a car with no muffler because it's got out-of-town license plates, out of state. These people, they don't care. They don't have nothing to lose. They don't have nothing invested. Yeah. They're just no better than the mess they made. Across the street's an empty lot where they tore down a house. The man that owns the property next to it bought it late last year to, I guess, fix it up like his house is. Next to it's an abandoned house, belonged to a guy in Long Island, I think. He bought it years ago for $15,000, and he has milked it dry. He told the last people if they wanted to fix the roof to fix it themselves. Now the roof is caved in and it's been abandoned. I don't know what's going to happen with it, of course. Next to that is the corner house where the people have 7 cars. I don't know why. I don't know what they do with them all. Late model cars, not antiques. Across of it was a little piece of property where they tore down a house. I guess it's 50 feet by 20 or 30 feet. The man in that house next to it has maintained it, cut the grass and the shrubs, and maintained it perfectly for 12, 15 years. To the transits across the street moved in a couple months ago and parked their 3 cars there. Made a big, muddy, nasty mess of that place, which is probably city property. It belonged to a company in California when the house was there. This is the kind of neighborhood I live in. These people, they got Virginia license plates on their cars. They've made such a mess, they put cardboard down trying to get a car out of there. They leave that mess, I guess, to dry out and blow down the streets and all. Now, who do you complain to? I can complain to you, nothing's done. Who are you going to tell, Olaski, so he'll send Andy Sunday down there, give me another ticket for complaining? That's all he's good for. They got a bunch of prima donnas in that, overpaid prima donnas that don't do a thing for the people in the neighborhood. Tell me, where are we going? What am I supposed to do you're reassessing my house, and my whole neighborhood isn't worth as much as it was 5 years ago because of the trash that's moved in there that nobody would do anything about. And then I hear Every time there's an election, we're going to have jobs in here. We're going to have high-paying jobs and thousands of jobs and the blight stuff, and nothing's ever done. Nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Ellman.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. First of all, last week I had the pleasure of going to the Planning Commission meeting. I would like to personally extend a thank you to Council Member McAndrew and Schuster for appearing at that meeting. Though they were only in the back listening to it, it showed that knowing that it was going to come before this body and it was of impact to quite a number of people who have spoken here, that they understood the necessity to take the time out for such an important matter and sit there and listen to it before it got to this body. I appreciate their interaction in other parts of the governmental process, especially when it's that important to the community. Thank you both. The Recovery Act funds. Originally, when it was brought before council to distribute them, we were told that when the money was released to the companies to start making the plan, our advisor group, that before any decision and distribution of that money would happen, it would come back to this body for approval. I see a bunch of money that has gone out, that has been handed out, and I have never seen anything but a report come back to this body saying, we spent it. Part of the handing the pre-money over was the agreement that it would come back to this body, and this body would at least be able to nod an approval or have an input on it. But it seems that is not being honored. We had a public poll that was put out and gathered, and the slides of what the mayor and the business office wanted prior, and what the community came back for allocating the funds were shown. The original allocation and the decided allocation, it completely ignored the public input. The management company said, as we go forward with the second tranche, we will look into it. We'll look into the public input, and we will adjust our plans based on that public input, because what we've done so far, we're continuing with it, but we'll address that again. I haven't seen them back here. I've seen plans. I've seen nothing that addresses what the public actually put in their percentages. It seems that the public input was just a farce to make it seem like the public actually had input on it. I look at the document on file for the Office of Community Development. Behavioral health and violence prevention. Maybe that's why we have the front door locked, because the city of Scranton is the highest draw on this program here. I guess for behavioral health, the city of Scranton and the employees have a drastic need, and maybe that door down there is to keep the public safe from the employees inside, because they're the ones who took the highest tranche of money out of all the entire group. I take a look at treatment advocacy centers for Lackawanna. I look at the Lackawanna County Treatment Court and Lackawanna County Drug Advocacy Center. They're all very important, but why isn't this the county's problem? The money is not for the county. The money is for the city of Scranton. If we don't have any advocacies directly for the city of Scranton, maybe we should. Maybe we shouldn't be giving money to county organizations from the city when the county has their own funding. I also look at the Rights Center. 3 grants. 3 grants for the COVID money for a group that was stealing from the people in the city by fraudulently billing medical and were removed from the program for giving the injections because they were robbing the population. Yet they get grants because they helped during COVID. Oh, they certainly helped. They helped their own pocketbooks. Have you had a chance to look at the Treasury updates for what is allowed under the Recovery Act, as I addressed beforehand?
We talked about costs. If you would change the criteria,
I have updated criteria, which I'll present to you after the meeting, which is direct research on what is allowed and how it can impact Naog Park.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Klein.
Good evening, Marie Schumacher. I would like to acknowledge and thank Frank for forwarding to me the demolition materials that he got, and I have not taken the time yet to come back with some questions, but I know I do have a few, so, but I thank him for his work. Also, I have been trying to use the web, and Joan was saying how great it was, and I had some problems. I was looking for something in the budget, the operating budget for this year, and I was a little lazy to get up and go get my hard copy. I thought, why should I? I'm sitting here in front of the computer, and I tried to pull it up. I could find the budgets for, like, go back to 2002 and up through 2022, but I couldn't find 2023. I mean, that was approved, what, back in November? Does anybody know where to find it on the web? No. And that was disappointing.
Mr. Voldenberg, could you check with IT and see if we can get that, if it's not uploaded, to see that it is uploaded? I know council, we all received a hard copy of it recently.
Yeah,
I
and
will, Mr. King.
just the web in general, I would think you might want to put some kind of a group together to work with IT on what they're doing and maybe telling us when they're going to make a big change and what the change was, so we don't have to figure it out for ourselves. But I think it needs work. I tried to find the code. I couldn't find the code. It was there, but it was very well hidden, but I did get help to find it, and I'm thankful for that. And next, do we have, next, I'm sorry. Next, I would like to thank the DPW for working on the drainage from Snook Street onto Seymour Avenue that ended up in that about 4 or 5 inch ice for a couple of days there. So the thing I don't know, because of course there's a stormwater contract on for the East Mountain for the stormwater and drainage, and I don't know how well DPW coordinates with the company that has that contract, so they know what's done, if it's done well and it doesn't need anything else, or if it's just a patch and something will still need to be done. I think that would be helpful. And then I think that we have an expert on Robert's Rules of Orders, or those of us who attended the planning meeting would probably still be here. So I thank him for being here and on the list. Now, the other thing I would like, do we have a list of the pilots the payments in lieu of taxes for our property tax exempt organizations?
I'm not aware that we have a list. I know there's, I think, $250,000 that was built into this year's budget, but perhaps we can reach out to the administration and see if we can get a list of which pilots and how much each contributes, if you could do
Yeah.
that.
I'll do that tomorrow, sir.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Frank.
I think it would be helpful too, because I had requested on a right to know the amount of the payroll preparation tax that Geisinger Community Medical Center had paid to the city of Scranton last year. And I got back that my request was denied because, as permitted by Section 707 of the Right to Know letter, nonprofits are exempt from payment of the city's PPT. However, also on the city's website, I'll tell you about it next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schumacher. Would anyone else like to be heard?
Good evening, Dave Dobson, resident. Where did that go? Anyhow, I don't understand this obsession with what type of doctor somebody is around here. You know, it's really like, why do you insist on wasting our time? You're already told what kind of doctor she was, and a doctorate can be a doctor of English literature or a doctor of history, European history, or, you know, it doesn't mean that it's a medical doctor. That's an old term. And furthermore, they have a further description, a doctor of ophthalmology, or oncology, doctor of oncology. So I don't know why we're so obsessed with this, but it gets a little annoying after a while. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old and I get annoyed really easily, but I don't think so. And another thing that was said tonight, well, 25% of all the national debt occurred between 2016 and 2020. Furthermore, there was 20 million doses of vaccine canceled in September of 2020 because somebody heard that their outlook for re-election wasn't looking too good. On top of all the other stuff, refusing to hand back documents for a year and a half, top secret documents and stuff. I understand how mistakes are made. And furthermore, back when the Tea Partiers took over, the Congress, they cut 2 years in a row 10% off of all of the budgets in the federal government. So I'm wondering if these documents, if I go to the library and borrow a book, they send me a letter if I'm late. You know, I paid fines at the library because I was just obsessed with reading a book and I didn't get around to calling them. It was silly. But, you know, why don't we notice that this stuff is missing or it's been handed out and not recalled? So, you know, it really, you're probably right. It is a waste of time to come in here and listen to national issues, but they seem to get their message out, and it's as twisted as a pretzel. I'd seen an article in the Scranton Times, an editorial, and according PPL and PUC unplugged duty. And last week I mentioned about an extraordinarily high electric bill. Now, it wasn't 300% like some people seem to think so, But they were given a 22% increase. Is that any kind of anti-inflationary coverage? You know, who in the heck is letting these types of things happen? Down in Harrisburg, we have another bunch. You know, we have a Senate now that we can't seem to get rid of. And they even want to turn around and have regional Supreme Court judges. So once again, we get a bunch of bumpkins in there, and, you know, it gets gooder and gooder. Build it back gooder. That's the way I like it. So, you know, it's just ungodly. How in the heck are people going to even afford to keep their houses lit with all the electric cars and everything else? And by the way, if you followed the events in California last summer, you couldn't even recharge an electric car in August and September. There are fires once again raging all over. So, you know, I'm a proponent of hybrids, but personally I think totally electric cars are blatantly stupid. And the sprawl is what's causing a lot of our gas and oil usage to actually increase. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson. You too. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Hi, Doris Klosky, Scranton resident. I wasn't going to come up here at all tonight, but I did want to thank Mr. Schuster and Mr. McAndrew for coming to the planning meeting. It was very good. And when Jean mentioned the, I believe that's her name, when she mentioned about going to the library for your taxes, I would like to mention that I believe you can go to the University of Scranton if you're a senior and get your taxes done there also. And I do want to say to Dr. Rothchild, it's like I can't believe this guy keeps talking about putting your thing after your physical therapy thing after your name. It's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. In that case, everybody here should put their job after their name. So I suggest you all get a second nameplate, and then you put down what your job is or who you work for, and then it would be about the same thing. Okay, thank you, good night, and have a good one.
Thank you, Ms. Klosky. Would anyone else like to be heard?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Smurl, do you have any motions or comments?
Not at this time.
Mr. Schuster?
Two, I guess, requests. So I did ask in caucus tonight if council has the most recent up-to-date version of the new city zoning ordinance. Frank, can we reach out to Don King just to make sure that we have the most recent up-to-date ordinance that has everything included so far? And then can we also ask about the comparable sheet that we've been waiting for quite some time that has had the changes on it from the previous zoning ordinance?
I will, sir.
Thank you. And then we also reach out to Ms. Cipriani to see if she could come in for a caucus to revisit our ARP or the ARPA plan to see if there's been any changes since the original plan. I know some time has passed, so I would imagine that there's some changes there that we could revisit, see if there's any changes to the guidelines, things that we could adjust moving forward, and just to review some of the things that we've done so far and what's to come.
I'll extend the invitation.
Thank you. I also have an address, but I'm just going to send it over to you in an email, Frank. So,
thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild?
I just, for Mr. Voldenberg, I wanted to request that we get an update on the walkability study and its status and the results of it.
I'll take care of that.
Thank you. And then I also want to thank my colleagues who were able to attend the Planning Commission meeting last week. I would have also loved to have gone. It's very important to me too, but I was on a pre-planned trip, so I was unable to attend, and that's why I was unable to make the meeting last week too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothschild. Mr. McAndrew?
Okay, yes, so the leaf blower is back again at Walgreens on South Main Avenue. So this was a big issue last year where they'd hire someone and they were blowing all kinds of garbage and debris onto South Main Avenue. I know the code enforcement was there, but all this to continue to do this. And all this debris is ending up on neighbors' properties. So from what I recall, they were only given a warning. This was last year. But this might be the third time in a row it's been brought to my attention. And there's pictures, and I'll have them, and I'll forward them to you. But I think at some point they should be cited, because if this continues, DPW will have more clogged storm drains to deal with just because of this debris, let alone branches and everything else. So if you can please send this complaint along, and when I give you the pictures, I'll try to get them out to you tonight or tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
And then also, we've been updated, or I ran into someone last night, as well as my colleagues, that there's still this really big hole that remains in front of 1452 West Locust Street. It's been there since 2019. A resident has told me this hole has been constantly patched since then, but it's a hole. It's not just like a little pothole, it's a hole that remains. And they're worried about a child getting hurt. And I'm worried too, after seeing the pictures that I'll also send to you, Mr. Voldenberg. This is a serious safety issue that needs to be immediate attention, because we talked about it in caucus. We said that, the water company's saying they're going to come by and do this, and then DPW says, well, we're going to pave it. But I think until they're on the same page or the paving list or whatever, this hole needs to be fixed now. If you see the pictures, it's ridiculous. So it's a big safety issue. We can't wait for them to figure out when they're going to pave or dig up the street. I think we have to fix it now until then. So please send that over.
I will, sir.
And then Mrs. Jeffers brought up a good point. So could you reach out? I know Dr. Rothchild just asked about an update with the walkability study, but could you also ask if there's anything reflective of more safety with regards to crossing the streets, like mentioned, like Lackawanna, Wyoming? Is that considered in the thought process? If not, maybe we can ask Department of Highways if they can take a look at it. I mean, there might be some way to make it a little safer or extend the time you have to run across the street. Because I know myself, I tried to cross there once, and you start hearing that noise, and you have to it doesn't seem like there's enough time most of the time to get across the street.
I'll take care of it, sir.
Thank you, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. So everybody stole my thunder. I did want an update on the walkability study as well, and the street signs. Those are two of the priorities I had listed for this year as well. So I know that I'm trying to remember the exact amount of money that was in the budget or dedicated toward the street signs. I think it was in the 220,000 range, but that I'm told that is a priority, also for DPW and for the administration. So if we could just get an update as to where we're at with that, we greatly appreciate it, along with the walkability study. And I too would like to thank Councilman Schuster and Councilman McAndrew for attending the Planning Commission. I was unavailable that evening, so it probably would have been a quorum actually if all three of us were here, but I appreciate them attending, and they have given us some updates as to what occurred that evening on top of what we obviously read in the newspaper. So that is a priority for this council, so I want to thank them for that. And that's all I have.
5B for introduction, an ordinance amending the membership provisions of the Housing Board of Appeals.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, I know we talked about it in caucus for quite some time. I know at first look here, I think I would be against the decreasing of the number of members on this board here. I do hear that there's issues filling seats on this board, and they haven't really had a full the full board for quite some time, but there's a couple things that, are a concern to me. If we were going to move this to a 3-member board, it would be a 2-person caucus there, which I think opens it up for having a split vote. So, I'll take some more time to think about it, but at this point in time, I think I would be against moving the number of individuals on this board from a 5-member to a 3-member.
Anyone else on the question?
To be honest with you, I hate to see a 5-member board go to 3, and then a majority being 2. I understand the issues with appointing people to this board because of the requirements and the criteria that's a little more stringent than most of the other boards. I get it. I'll move it with reservation. I'm just glad, because one point, part of the proposal was going to be wanting to reach outside of the city to appoint people to this board. I'm glad I have no appetite for that. So with that said, I'll move it, and then I'll have to take a better look and make a final decision.
Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution approving the intermunicipal transfer of an eating place liquor license E2760, currently owned by Solicitor, Inc., and located at 622 South Blakely Street, Dunmore, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, 18510, to Green Ridge News, LLC, located at 329 Green Ridge Street, Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, 18509, as required by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
I make a motion to table item 5C.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to table item 5C. This piece of legislation is being tabled to allow for advertisement of a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, February 14th, 2023 at 5:45 p.m. On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution approving the financing by the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority of certain capital projects for the benefit of Marywood University, a Pennsylvania not-for-profit corporation, declaring that it is desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the city of Scranton, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, and the area served by Marywood University to have the project provided by and financed through the authority, designating the mayor of the city, or in the mayor's absence, the president or vice president of the city council, as the person to act on behalf of the city council as the applicable elected representative within the meaning of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, authorizing such mayor of the city or the president or vice president of the city council of the city to take certain actions on behalf of the city council of the city as such applicable elected representative, and authorizing other necessary and appropriate action.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution, appointment of Lori Barrett, 739 North Webster Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18510, as a member of the board of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority to fill the unexpired term of Robert Timlin. Lori Barrett's term is effective upon execution of the resolution and will expire on February 14th, 2027.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file the council number 50, 2023, an ordinance levying local service tax, LST, for year 2023 at $156.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, previously tabled, reading by title, file the council number 46, 2023, an ordinance establishing permit parking on the 1500 block of Pine Street.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Motion dies for lack of second.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, file the council number 48, 2023. Amending file the council number 105, 2021, an ordinance. Amending file the council number 72, 2019, an ordinance. Amending file the council number 64 of 2014, entitled, an ordinance adopting the quality of life and violations ticket process in the city of Scranton as amended. To amend violations in Section 2, enforcement in Section 4, fines and penalties in Section 5, fines and penalties in Section 6, and citation fines in Section 7. Amending Section 3 and Section 4 violation numbers to coordinate with the notice of violation that is given out by code enforcement.
What is the recommendation of chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file the council number 49, 2023, extending the discount period for real estate taxes and refuse fees.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption, resolution number 191, 2023, appointment of Dimitri Bartels Bray, 129 North Washington Avenue, apartment 705, Scranton, Pennsylvania 18503, as a member of the Shade Tree Commission. Dimitri Bartels Bray will be replacing David Wenzel, who retired. Dimitri Bartels Bray's term is effective upon execution of the resolution and will fill vacancy of the unexpired term that is set to expire October 29, 2023.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question. On the question, I would, and I know we talked about it earlier, like to recognize former Mayor David Wenzel for all of his many years' dedication to the city of Scranton and the parks and all that he's done for disabled members of our community. And it's certainly been a life well lived, and he's been a tremendous contributor to this city. So I want to thank him for his many, many years of dedication to our city.
On the question, I'd like to echo that sentiment and thank him for all of his service to the city, also to the Shade Tree Commission, of course, and in thanking Dimitri for their willingness to serve on this commission now.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, resolution number 192, 2023, accepting a donation in the amount of $200 to the Scranton Police Department to be placed in the Scranton Police Department's K-9 account as noted.
What's the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 193, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with Barry Isett and Associates, Inc., to provide professional engineering, design, and construction management services for the Naog Park All-Inclusive Playground Project.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothschild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
8th order 8A, file the council number 46, 2023.
This ordinance was taken from the table this evening, placed in 6th order, and died for lack of a second. If there are no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.